There we go. Now I can get this party started.
Queen Esther lighting up the night.
Oh,
Yeah. So this glass is broken. Cutting me. Okay, there we go. Much better. All right, everybody, welcome to the Shmiros HaLashon class called the Chofetz Chaim Says What? I appreciate everybody for joining. Thank you, Sharon and Shelly and Mark and Anat. Welcome, and my family also. Dad, Mom, Shmiz, thanks so much. And Circa is debuting back here. She's not actually going to show up, but she's listening.
your dad looks adorable.
Okay. Oh, look at that.
Your dad. Look at your dad.
I guess I want to pin you for a second because it's just too funny.
That's adorable.
Very cool. Very cool. All right.
That's okay. I screen saved it. I'll send you the picture.
Thank you so much, Anat. I appreciate it. Okay, we are going to start with our Q&A. It's called Jokes on Whom? My 4-year-old nephew came to my house on a Sunday morning wearing his Shabbos clothes. When I asked him why, he innocently said, "My mommy told me that she's swimming in piles of dirty laundry, so I have to wear my Shabbos clothes." Then he looked at me, his little forehead crinkled in worry. "But Aunt Yocheved, when will my mommy be finished swimming? We don't have a pool." I cracked up. May I repeat this hilarious story to my friends? Could anyone hear it over my birds chirping?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, that's good. So the question was, is she allowed to give over the story of her nephew being really cute and talking about his mom swimming in piles of laundry?
I mean, I guess you could just laugh it off. I mean, especially if they know that she doesn't have a pool. But
right. And we're not really focusing so much on it reflecting badly on the child, but what about the mom?
There's a point of Lashon Hara in there because I mean, if she sent her kids with Shabbat clothes, that means either way, she's not keeping the house clean and enough for him to wear clean clothes. But then again, you don't know if she's too busy or all that. It put the mom in a conflict situation, but I mean, everybody share like a child wisdom kind of thing, because a child thing, it's a funny thing to hear, but yeah, it can like show the mom in a bad eyes. Either she's too busy for a child, or.
Right. Yeah, it's true. They could look back and say, okay, cute story. The kid doesn't get it, but wow, he has to be wearing Shabbos clothes because she hasn't been able to clean, and it doesn't look great on the mom. Does anyone think that it'll probably be fine? Like it's, it's a pretty normal occurrence. I mean, I don't know how normal it is, but they probably have a lot of kids, and so maybe it's just like, oh, normal life. It's very silly, very cute.
I mean, in this case, unless the person name itself is mentioned, I mean, kids' words of wisdom, it's always funny. So unless the kid himself or any connection to the kid himself, I don't know. I don't see anything harm in it. But if there's any way to get a connection to who the mom is and who the child is, yes, there will be kind of Lashon Hara in it.
Right. So you're saying you could tell this story and talk about how cute it is, but don't talk about how it's your nephew.
Exactly.
And
don't point it to a person. Just wisdom.
Okay. Very interesting. I think, and I really like how you phrased that. You said it could reflect badly on the mother, but if you're not saying who the mother is and you give no clues as to who it could be, it's very likely you could tell it over, because that wasn't even part of the question. It wasn't even, can I change the name? It's just, can I tell over the story? And so
Right.
the answer they gave was no, because it reflects badly on the mother. And nothing else saying, but if you didn't give a name or anything, and it could be that, she's not really in contact with a lot of kids. So it's like, oh, it was probably your nephew because that was the kid that you're around. But okay, I could see that, if there's no hint as to who the mother is, and it wouldn't look bad, and she wouldn't look bad, then all right. Okay, good job. I don't know how long this class is going to end up being, but I put a few things together talking about Purim and Shmiros HaLashon. Are my glasses distracting in any way, or my headband?
No. Oh, they're cute.
Okay, good. So Rabbi Shui actually gave me the idea. I mean, my father always gives me the ideas to connect what's happening to what we're doing. But Rabbi Shui's class this week, he spoke a lot, his class is about Emunah and Bitachon, and he spoke about Purim, and I really liked that. And at first, I was thinking, I'll bring in the story of Purim and talk about different areas of halacha with Shmiros HaLashon. And I was saying, Mordechai had to tell Esther with Big Son and Seresh were going to try to poison King Achashverosh, and he had to tell it over because it was Toelas. And I realized I spoke to someone. They say, yeah, but they're not Jewish. Even though the law does not apply to people who are not Jewish, we still go by the law that we go by. I guess would be a chumrah, the stringency. We don't say lashon hara about non-Jewish people because we can get, God forbid, in the habit of it. So I didn't want to go so much into that, but then I did want to connect Purim to Shmiros HaLashon. So I put a lot of thought into this, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it and get something out of it. And and the laws will come in. So one of the main themes of Purim is the idea of concealment, hiding, right? That's one of the reasons that we dress up. Hadassah had to conceal the fact that she was a Jew. And when she became the queen, she called herself Esther. And this originates from the Hebrew word Hester, meaning hidden. And Hashem also hides. Hashem hides in the Megillah. We don't see Hashem's name in the Megillah at all. We see it's alluded to. We have the word Melech, king, which could mean Achashverosh in many places, but also means Hashem. And other examples of Hashem. Hashem was obviously there, but Hashem is hidden in the Megillah. So then I have a few points that I made of what concealment has to do with Shmiros HaLashon. Does anyone have any ideas of how they see concealment could be involved in Shmiros HaLashon? Because I feel like we probably will catch on to something, and then I could say that one. If not, I'll just go through them. It did take me a lot of thought, so I don't know how anyone could. I mean, you guys could probably think of it off the top of your head, but I thought I'd ask if you guys have any thoughts. I'm going to go through it, and if you guys want to add on to it or even disagree with it, because these are all my own thoughts, then please. Or you just want to, or if you want to agree with it and tell me how amazing it is, then go for it. All right. So I see. The more I thought about it, the more connections that I saw, and on a very basic level. I said that we can tell over information, concealing anyone who is involved in the story. Just like Anat said in our example, that if we conceal, the identity of the subject in the story, the nephew and the sister-in-law or the sister, whatever, then we probably could have been able to tell over the story without it looking bad on anyone. He said, especially if it will show the person in a negative light, right? We just shouldn't say it. So we should leave it out and conceal, their identity. On a second level, sorry, I forgot to put my birds asleep. Another connection that I see is sometimes our expressions portray our inner thoughts. Which is lashon hara, right? We spoke about lashon hara being actions, not just spoken word, even though lashon means word, but it's also in our actions, and it can even be through written letter. And sometimes we can, I said that I'm guilty of this sometimes. But you could be in a situation where I could be in a situation where I'm unimpressed, and I could give a little eye roll, right? And and it's lashon hara just by doing that little eye roll. I want to do the eye roll. You can't see it, but but sometimes we have to just take our inner thoughts, our inner feelings, and conceal them, because they could be expressed. We don't even realize it, but we sometimes need to just keep them inside and not let them be expressed, especially if they're negative. If they're positive, okay, fine. Yeah, jump around, get crazy. Otherwise, keep them to yourself is basically. I feel like the next one's also you just keep it to yourself kind of thing. It's also concealing. So the first one is like concealing our actions, and the concealing, I guess, our thoughts and not letting it turn into action. But also what we really think through spoken and just blurting it out. I at a young age I had to learn to have a filter and to think before I spoke, and it was something that I constantly worked at, because I'm constantly thinking of things, and I don't think that people will take it the wrong way, but sometimes it happens. So that's something that I had to learn, and it's even just something negative, and if it's not for the toilet, for constructive purpose, right, Circa? Then then this could fall under the category of onas dvarim. And I didn't really speak too much about this before. We did briefly go over it a while back, but onas dvarim is causing hurt through spoken word. And an example that I thought that this could be is of this specific thing and being onas dvarim is if no one asked your opinion or someone's opinion, and the person just came up and was like, wow, your hair's looking funky. And I'm saying this because it's a real example. One of the kids in my class told me my hair looked funky one day. And not in a nice way. It wasn't like, ooh, it's looking funky. It was like, Maura, your hair's looking really funky today. So it's like, I didn't ask you. And so this way, onas dvarim is a very big part of Shmiros HaLashon, which is, we're not saying any lashon hara. I'm not talking about somebody, I'm not even alluding to anybody. I'm just saying something specific, and you may not like it. Okay, but we really have to be careful about the words we say, because people can be sensitive to what we say. And I mean, I know nowadays it's very different. I know people are called, the snowflake generation. And even with that, it could be a little bit ridiculous at some points. Just to be a normal amount of careful. You don't need to tiptoe around everything, but try to be sensitive of other people's thoughts and feelings, and not just blurting things out like, your hair looks funky. I can't get over it. It was cute, but still. I didn't even think my hair looked that bad that day. Anyway. All right. And I think that, and I know this connects to the next section, which is actually the last part of how I see Purim connecting to Shmiros HaLashon. But if anything comes up and you think of something, please, you can either just blurt it out, because I don't know if I could see everybody, but I definitely want to hear from you. But this last part, I took a lot from the Chofetz Chaim Heritage Foundation, one of the emails that I received. The beginning starts out from me, and then I'm quoting it from their email. Sometimes people may think that it is better to be honest than to conceal information and lie, right? We did speak about this. We sometimes said, oh, it's better to lie than to give over information, especially if it's not your information to give over. We said, wait, we're taught from a very young age, you don't lie. You don't ever lie. There's no reason to lie, right? Always be honest. And you shall not bear a false report, right? And our sages teach us that the seal of God is truth. And we're commanded to distance ourselves from falsehood. But it is permissible to lie for the sake of peace. And we did discuss this a few times, lying for the sake of peace. And if you guys have any examples that you want to say, please, or you can even message me on the chat. I don't know how to get it on, but I'll find it, I'm sure. An example is taken from the Torah Bereshis, and we actually brought this in, I believe, a class or two ago with my sister and my mom, saying, "Wait, remember that time in the Chumash where Hashem, an angel, right? The angel tells Avram and Sarah that they're going to have a baby, and so Sarah laughed in disbelief, and she said, 'How could a couple be so old be granted a child?' And Hashem was displeased, it says, with Sarah's laughter, and he confronted Avram, saying, 'Why did Sarah laugh, saying that it can be true that I'll give birth? How could it be true that I could give birth when I'm old, right?' And that's not what Sarah said. She said, 'How could a couple who were so old be granted with a child?' Right? Hashem lied. He twisted the words so that Abraham wouldn't be offended, wouldn't be sad by the fact that Sarah called him old, right? Because she said, 'My husband,' she also brought, my husband is old. So Rashi said, Hashem altered the truth for the sake of peace. For Avram may have felt hurt that his wife referred to him as old. And this is a great example from the Torah and from Hashem himself, right? Nothing could be truer than, straight from God. We said before that the seal of God is truth, So here, from this, we see the incredible importance of the Torah, that a Torah attaches to maintaining peace within the Jewish people, whether among friends or families or communities, which is very important. In instructing us to alter the truth for the sake of peace, Hashem is not asking us to transgress, right? We're not saying, "Oh yeah, just go lying, God forbid." Truth from the Torah's perspective is more than words. This really hit me because I actually didn't really, think much about that before. But the truth is more than words. The Maharal explains that from the Torah's perspective, animosity is a form of falsehood. This attitude is expressed by the sages' term for animosity, which means sinas chinam, baseless hatred. Peace itself is a form of truth, and strife is a form of falsehood. When we speak with the goal of avoiding strife, we are preserving the truth and rejecting falsehood, right? So this is a really strong point to be made. Does anyone think that they may have an example of this? You're trying to keep peace, and so you have to lie for the sake of peace. I know I gave an example before. No one has, unless someone wants to say something. But even for the sake of peace, also doing more research, when it isn't your information to give over. So I gave my example. I mean, I guess an example that I could just take use for this is you have two friends, and maybe the two friends are, not getting along somehow, God forbid. And then you go to one friend, you say, "You know what that friend said about you? She said that you're gorgeous." And, she's just a little sad because, she may have been a little jealous of you or something. You wouldn't say jealous because that's against the Torah. But you're only allowed to be jealous of someone's Torah study. They're just a little sad, but, it's nothing against you. They really like you until the other person, and you somehow make them get along. But clearly the other person didn't say, I don't know what they were mad about, but you try to get people together. You see it in movies. I'm trying to think. I think of Parent Trap, but I haven't seen that in such a long time. I feel like you just lie to to try to make it work. I don't know. I can't think of anything right now. But my usual example is when I asked someone, I go, "Is that person pregnant?" And I didn't want to ask them because I won't make that mistake. No. No. Oh, I don't want to ever make that mistake. It's too sad. But I was like, "Oh, is that person pregnant?" And then they said, and the person's usually, pretty thin person. So I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And the person said, "No, they're not." And I said, "Oh, okay." And then a few months later, it was very clear that they were pregnant. And I got upset with the person. I was like, how can you not tell me? And they said, well, it wasn't my information to give over. I knew this person would know if they were pregnant, if the other person was pregnant, but it wasn't their information to give over. And for the sake of peace, even especially for their own peace with their friend who, had a secret or something private, it's for the sake of peace. So the Chofetz Chaim makes a crucial point that though we can lie to avoid rechilos, we may not swear for this purpose. And it says the segment concludes with the case where someone is seeking just one piece of information, which will complete the picture. He knows that someone has spoken behind his back. He knows what was said, but he doesn't know who said it. To supply this piece of information would be rechilos, gossip mongering. The same would apply if one were to relate the story without mentioning names, but the listener could deduce the identity of the culprit, right? Which we did actually discuss those two things. But I believe, is that the end? Oh yeah, so after this, it says one small step. They usually do this in the emails. It's adorable, where you take it upon yourself, or you try to take it upon yourself to do something. So one small step is today before I speak, or I guess tomorrow, because it's already the evening, I'll ask myself, will what I am about to say increase peace? So, and this is really important, especially, like I said, when I was teaching myself, think before you speak. Is what you're about to say going to help the situation? Will it make a situation worse? Most of the things that I say, I like to make people happy when I say them. So if it's something really weird and silly, they'll say it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to say, it doesn't even have to be about a specific person, but it's definitely not positive. And I say, okay, it's probably better to not say. So that's a one small step. But otherwise, those were my few connections that I found, between concealing the Hester, Purim, and Shmiros HaLashon, which is really interesting to do. And these are all my own thoughts. So do you guys have anything to add, anything to say? Talk about how great I am, please.
You are.
Thank you.
I really commend you.
Oh, thank you.
It was a great class. You did beautiful.
Well, thank
did
you
really-
so much.
You do
Erin.
so
I
much.
appreciate it.
I appreciate you, all the work that you put into it. Really.
And I appreciate you always being here. It's great to teach a class and have people to teach. You need it. And I'm also always learning with you guys. You always teach me something, all of you. But yeah, I hope everyone has, as they say, has a Freilich Purim, has a happy Purim. I hope everyone's having a very joyful Adar and is increasing their joy. And I hope that, my outfit was helping.
Yes.
And I hope to see you all very, very, very soon.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you. It was a wonderful class, and you were
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank
And
you so
made
much.
Dark Side even better.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so
Okay,
much.
good
Good
night.
night.
I
Good
send
night.
this to all my friends, and I love you all.
We love you, Mariah.
Thank
Love you.
you.
Night.
Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye.